Hey guys, and welcome to an episode of Bibliomancy for Beginners at a relatively normal weekly time frame. It's like we've been trying. Yay.
I
What
feel
is
like,
that like?
yeah,
Guys,
It's only
remember
like
when
a
you do this
month
every
late though.
week?
it feels weird being on this like a week after a month hiatus.
Yeah.
It's like just
Yeah. Snippy.
snapping
Doing it.
quickness.
Yeah. So today we are going to be discussing Days of Blood and Starlight, which is the second book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. Does it have another title, Gretchen, or is it just
Uh, I don't think so.
okay, we're
The
going with
Angel
that then.
Dreams Saga.
Sure. Uh I don't think that that works really because I feel like there's like 17 YA series that have something to do with angel dreams. So,
Days of the Chimera.
sure. Um Yes, there will be swearing probably. Um, what else do I need to say? Oh, we always start with our overall spoiler-free reviews. So if you haven't read it yet, you can listen to what we have to say, and then I'll let you know when we're going to talk about spoilers. Normal. So, okay, let's go.
Alrighty. Um, so this is my pick, if you can't guess by the sheer YA-ness of it. Um,
That Dutch angled cover.
it's also the follow-up to our Bibliomancy episode on Daughter of Smoke and Bone, like Michaela said, which was great. I think was like our first like first or second in Bibliomancy episode. Um, and it was really fun and wonderful, and we all liked the book. We didn't like all love the book, but we all liked the book, which is very rare and special. So right after we did that episode, I went through and read the entire series because I was like, whoa! And I think that this is the best book in the series. And that is not to say that I think it is the best book in the world. I think it is the best book in the series. That's a very different distinction to be made there. It definitely has its flaws. Laini Taylor and pacing is a fascinating thing. We
For
had
that
that
reason,
discussion.
I am
What?
troubled if this is the best in the series. That pacing reason.
No, I will talk to you of Gods and Monsters later on. But I like it. I like the characters. I like the world, the concept of the world, and how complicated it gets. And I also like that this is a romance where they take the time to think, like, to separate off and actually be like, you know what? Like, we've both done some really shitty things, and we're both really messed up people, and maybe, like, our romance doesn't need to be the most important thing in this book. Um, so I do like that a lot. Like I said, this whole series isn't my favorite series in the world, but I really do like it. I think that it has a lot of potential, which is utilized and underutilized, but I like.
Okay. Um, I was checking on Goodreads, and I think we all rated it 4 stars, so it's that awkward moment where we all agree again. Um,
I'm sure we all agree for very different reasons, though.
yeah, that's the thing. Um, so I had a hard time getting back into this series. The beginning of this, to me, because it starts off sort of right where the last one ended in a way, expects you to be completely in it again, and I so was not because it's been like not quite a year but almost a year since we read the last one. And while I know who the characters are, I like had to take a moment to try and figure out what was going on and get my bearings, and then I was super confused because I realized that I might just be confused because a lot of the characters we were interacting with at the beginning of the book were relatively new in general anyway,
Hmm.
but they were being treated almost like we were old friends with them, and I don't know. I guess it did pick up, and I did end up enjoying like the majority of it. So I did rate it 4 stars, but because I had such a hard time getting back into it, I couldn't rate it 5, and I don't think I would have rated it 5 anyway. But yeah, so I feel like this is definitely one that's better to read right after the first one.
Mm.
Like it
Like I
feels,
did.
yeah, like
I
Gretchen
read
did.
them all in a row.
Yeah, and I feel like that's true of a lot of YA trilogies, that they are better when they're binge read versus spread out over time. So yes, that's my thoughts.
It does start you in the trenches, so to speak, but that wasn't really my issue with it. So while yes, I totally gave it 4 stars and I enjoyed the book and the writing, I think my issue with her pacing persists because in the first book it was a whole narrative until suddenly there's a whole different story plopped down in the center of the book,
Yep.
and that just keeps going for 200 pages.
Yep.
And this does not do that. It alternates characters' perspectives fairly regularly and in a interesting, intense way. But the first half of this book, like 250 pages, are all Karoo, as I mentioned in our chat. It's all Karoo sitting around getting like sexually harassed by the White Wolf, and that's it. And like there's not really any progression. It's just really settling into see how miserable she is, see how much of a prisoner in this place she is despite wanting to be here, see how mean they are. And it was 250 pages, but once we were past that, things started happening again and there was action and we finally got Susanna back into the story for a bit and the book could stop just being interesting and actually be enjoyable again. Because
I
this series hates for you to actually enjoy yourself. If you have like happiness, you're in this world wrong because there isn't any happiness. Funny people must be banished.
So why are you still here? Oh, that's right, because you're not funny.
Oh,
But
That doesn't even make sense.
boo. Um, I forgot to say Susanna best girl.
I know, right?
Yeah. And then she's just kind of shoved out of this book every chance we got. But then as soon as she's in, like, Karoo smiles and we have a couple, like, laughs here and there despite the tension and things get done. And then it's like, no, it's time for you to go. Oh my god.
There's one companion novella to this series that's like of puppets and moonlight and something, and it's all about Susanna and Mick.
I would read that so hard. Yeah. I had
I was even, yeah.
I
Oh.
just realized that I had similar feelings in this that I did when I was first reading Pendragon as a child. For those of you who watched our first Nostalgia Junkie series and know that when I was reading Pendragon as a child, I skipped sections because I cared more about Mark and Courtney than I did about Bobby. So I would literally skip over the actual story of what Bobby was doing and just read the like side bits. I feel like if I had done that as an adult, I didn't do that, but I feel like I wanted to do that with
Hmm.
the Susanna and Nick bits. Like
Yeah.
I didn't want to read about the main characters. I cared more about these side characters who were not in it as much.
I
And I will
genuinely
say,
was
oh.
thinking about you as I was reading this book and just going, I can hear Michaela in my head saying the side character is more interesting than the main characters, and she is correct.
Yeah.
I hate it so much when that happens, though, because it's every time. All the time. Why must the side characters be more interesting than the main characters, guys? Why can't we just write about interesting characters? Out.
what I will say about the Susanna portions is it's clear Laini Taylor is just so smug with herself whenever she's writing those. And she's like, oh, I'm so funny, I'm so clever. But she does it with enough charm that I'm entirely aware of it and completely forgiving. I am more than happy to go along for that ride of silly dialogue and all of that. So,
Also, what was Susanna's email? Because I listened to it on audio, so every time I heard it, I sort of snorted a little bit, but every
Hold on, I have it right here.
because I was like,
like,
I want that email,
Also, wait,
Jesus
can we,
Christ.
while I'm finding this, can you raise the spoiler hand?
Oh, yeah. Spoiler fingers are happening. So if you haven't read the book, maybe flee and come back later. If you don't care about spoils or you've already read it because it was super popular like 6 years ago, stay
I
and
think it
listen
was
to us.
Deranged Pixie was her email.
It was rabidfairy@shakestinyfist.net, which was another. That was
ShakesTinyFist.net.
another moment that
Okay,
I was
I
like, it's
missed that.
Michaela.
I want.
Your hands are so tiny.
I just really appreciate, like, because, like, originally when I first read this, I thought that Susanna, because she didn't, like, know where Karu was just writing this to blow off steam. Because it's, like, rabidfairy@shakestinyfist.net to Blue Karu at hitherandthithergirl.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but, like,
It's a
Karu
little
actually
ambiguous.
responds.
Yeah.
So I was like, what?
Yeah, and I still maintain that Blue Karu should be a children's book. It's just such a pleasant rhyme.
Yeah, it's fair.
Blue
Um,
Karu.
so hang on. If we are okay with this, I want to address something that Taylor said.
Okay.
Because I think that one of the reasons that I like doing these book clubs on books that I've already read is that I have my opinion after I've read it the first time and I've had time to like read it again and sink into it. So I'm a really fast reader, which means I'm not a thorough reader on the first read through.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes with book club books, I don't take as much time as I like maybe should have with them because I don't have the time. Um, so when you made the comment, because back while we were reading these books together, Taylor made the comment about Thiago and Carew. I actually think I might have heard it through Michaela that you had said that, and I went, "Oh my God, like you're right." And I really had to think more deeply about the fact,
Wait, the
like,
sexual harassment comment?
yeah,
Okay.
because like it definitely creeped me out, but I don't think that I didn't engage with it very critically and like thinking about it like that and as a definite portrayal of like sexual
I mean,
harassment in this
the
book.
isolation in itself is a huge, like, red flag in that of just strategies. How he does the thing where he's like, "Oh, they'll warm up to you. Like you just like I'm doing what I can. Like you don't need to worry about it. They'll come around. They won't hate you forever," while simultaneously making sure they hate her forever just to keep her isolated. So that
And so I
part
guess
is,
my
yeah.
question about that is that sometimes when things like sexual harassment, I mean, we talked about this like with the Magician series of it being an unnecessary versus like handled well,
Okay.
or like as not handled well, but you know what I mean, like
Hmm.
included in a productive way that added to a conversation or like describe is as opposed to just being like, boom, violence against women because I can.
It's um thought out and makes sense instead of just being the rationale of, well, rape's the worst thing that you can ever do to a girl, so that's the thing to up the ante here.
Okay, because I wasn't sure when you made that comment if you were like angry about the way that it was portrayed or just like angry that that took up like that it was you know what I mean? Like
I
there's a
think it was
different.
portrayed well, and
Okay.
in what I mentioned with it makes sense. We have that very powerful scene towards the end between her and Thiago, where I think that made perfect sense in the context of the story, and I think it was handled well. But I think the pacing in the first half of the book was also somewhat. off, not
Okay.
because of her handling of it.
Okay. All right. I was just trying to like separate those two issues and
Mhm.
see if like they were the same or like different or just like feeding. Because like I said, like it definitely like I knew it on a subconscious level the first time I read this book, but I hadn't like engaged with it critically all that much because I only read it
Mhm.
once and then put it down. Because Dreams of Gods and Monsters is a thing.
Yeah,
So I didn't
that's
go back and read the series again. But anyways, Michaela, would you like to add to this discussion?
Um, I was just gonna say that while I sort of agree with Taylor on the pacing, I can't talk about pacing. I listen to it as an audiobook. I listen to it really fast, so things like it being 200 pages doesn't really affect me. It was like an hour of listening
you
time,
finished
not
this book in
even.
2 hours.
It's a 14-hour audiobook. So no, but I did
Literally, no.
finish
What
it
I said,
in
it's a
seven.
well,
Less than seven?
well,
Five.
what I'm saying
Five?
is the book is 500 pages, and like 210 of those are that stagnation.
Yes, and I listened to it at 3 times speed, so I listened to it in just over 5 hours. So 2 hours seems 2 hours then, I
No
guess.
further questions.
I don't know. Math. Math. In any case, that didn't bother me, and I do feel like Iago's character's isolation and sort of weird, like, sexual thing to make her uncomfortable was it made sense. It wasn't a plot device, so to speak. It was
No.
actually what his character would be doing because he doesn't like her. He wishes that she were dead. He killed her already once, or thought he did, and is upset that that didn't last. And because he needs her, otherwise they're all gonna die, he's super upset about that, but he doesn't have to make her the one everybody worships for saving their asses in a way. I don't know. So I didn't have issues with it, so to speak. I was fine with it.
And the fact that he
Okay.
gets like an erection every time he thinks about cutting her head
It wasn't
off
my
just
favorite part, but
confuses
I
it even further. You know what
Okay, I
happens.
just wanted to bring that up because, like, when you said that, I was like, oh no, maybe I didn't think about this enough. Because I also thought that it was well thought out in the way that it was used, but also, like, I feel like sometimes when characters like Thiago are portrayed, they're very one-sided, and the only reason they're doing what they're doing is because they're just creepy, and also
Hmm.
they don't it isn't portrayed on a very complex level. Like there's a lot of levels to what he's doing to Peru and why he's
Hmm.
doing them. But I feel like half the time, especially in YA, when this kind of behavior is portrayed, it's either portrayed as sexy, which
Didn't happen in
Anio.
this.
um, but then
Anio.
like is is not portrayed in the true like scary complexity of how it works
Hmm.
and the effect because like Karu both notices what he's doing but also like can't escape because of the so many different levels of power happening.
Yeah.
So like I thought that it was well thought out and complex in a way that it's more supposed to be and actually is.
But it is a very, I suppose, simplified approach to it. It's he used to love her, and now he super hates her.
Well, yeah,
It is
but
still a YA book.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, it's a fairly linear character
Well,
reasoning. It doesn't have to be more complex, but as far as we were talking about um, representation or depth of that.
he the way that I imagined it is he is like the quarterback on the football team. Like he's everybody loves him. He's their star player. And
The coach
she
just got his head cut off.
sure, and she used to be the head cheerleader, and they used to always fight together to murder a bunch of nerds. And then he finds her making out with a nerd, and like his self-esteem is wounded. Like it's about his pride, right?
Is Thiago equal to nerd? Nerd is not as great as Thiago. Does that mean Thiago is not as great?
Okay, can I also just say, just like as a sidebar, that Thiago just kept making me think of the parrot in Aladdin. And
See, you
With
did that.
Iago?
You did that, and I was thinking of like what is that Shakespeare play with Iago?
Othello, which is
Othello,
Iago,
thank you.
which is both the play and the parrot.
Right, but like mine's a slightly closer representation. Hers is an annoying, sarcastic
Conniving.
pseudo villain
Um,
sidekick.
just
Mine
try
is
and
an
picture
actual.
Iago from Aladdin being scary sexy to a lady. Just
Uh,
I mean, this
no.
is, guys, can we stop this before I only ever read Thiago's lines in the voice of Gilbert Gottfried in my head?
I know I was about to be like Gilbert Godfrey is so not
I don't
sexy.
want this. I
we're
was
going
gonna
to
say
inflict
something
this on
else.
you.
Oh, no, all I was gonna say was I wasn't going anywhere with his name in my head, but every time, because he had that thing where he would say Karu's name twice, he would be like, well, don't you want to stay here, Karu, Karu? And I'm like, what? This sounds really dumb.
Karu Karu.
Don't you want to stay here, Karu? Karu? How do you either pace it like a long way out or really close together, Karu, Karu? And it doesn't work ever. It's not.
No.
It's not threatening. It's not alluring.
Well, Michaela, as someone who listened to the audiobook, did you pick up on that at all?
Um,
They would be
three
really quick Karus.
three times speed. Karu Karu blah 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 blah. So I was just like, maybe that's at the beginning of the next sentence. I don't know.
How do you feel about the Karu?
Yeah. Karu Karu.
Meanwhile, Michaela's like, I am so scared right now.
Hey man. So I had a mildly sarcastic comment about the angel portions and the e.5 portions of this.
No. Sarcastic?
Maybe. My my
Why?
I like if I could put a sticky note or like right on the side of is it I guess it's the end of it. If you're going to create a coup to kill your emperor, maybe make sure the dude that's replacing him isn't worse than your emperor.
Can we also consider the fact that him getting away where he actually succeeded at the coup was kind of a random like fact of just Akiva needing to turn over a body first? So it's like, if that didn't happen, if the angels had fallen backwards, Jail's entire coup would have failed because they would have killed him.
Yep.
For like a super schemy dude, this is like the most convenient situation. He didn't even have a body double.
There are parts of this story, and I mean, maybe this is like also a feeling having read Days of Gods and Monsters, is that just like there is such a complicated world plot, mythos, religion thingy trying to be built into this. It's just that sometimes, like, it's like two threads. She tried to tie them together, realized they were like still an inch apart, and was like, "No one will notice if I duct tape this." That's like my feeling, and like, cause some of it's done really well, and then some of it you're just like, "This looks like Swiss cheese." I don't understand.
As long as I don't think about this, it flows fine. As soon as you do, it's duct tape. My thoughts about the angel portions were not really a criticism, but just this growing realization that Laini Taylor got progressively less and less interested in every single angel except Liraz, the girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first book, she's like, wow, she doesn't really do much, does she? She's just kind of like a frowny brick wall. Second book. And the others had enough characterization already. That one's funny. That one
one's the
frowns, but he's a
funny one.
man. It's enough. He's dreams.
like I think the really funny realization that I had was that in like the first book, the majority of the angels that you saw were male, and then you jump to the second book, and all of the angels besides Haziel and Akiva are female for the most part, and like have these like little interesting stories in there, and I was just like, this is very odd.
Like that didn't feel like an issue, you know. It was just much more fluid gender representation. It didn't feel like it was
Mm.
ham-fisted or anything. It was the same thing with um, the Chimera. There were a lot more stories of like, oh, this like sinister fox girl used to be my BFF, but I'll keep her in the thing in case I need something. And then it was like that girl was a like cat person, and like I never really knew where I stood with her, and she kind of looks at me, but she doesn't like question it. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's
I
my
don't.
Peru voice.
One of my favorite things was the shadows that lived, and like the fact that Karoo was so scared of them, and then Susanna and Rick show up, and there's like the scene where they're acting out like chicken,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like,
Oh, Peru, you was. Yeah, and then you know what ruined it? Like they just kind of benignly flopped into the pit. Like,
yep.
oh, this won't go poorly. We'll do it. I spent literally 50 pages between that and when Laini Taylor finally mentions that a crew collected their spirits. 50 pages of just agony. Like every sentence I read, like, did did she get the bodies, or was that too inconvenient for her? Is this just gonna be a narrative thing that's never addressed? And then finally, it's like, and then I saved them, but like I don't have bodies yet. Like,
I
fine.
mean, one of the weird things that is built into these chapters is that like somebody gets information, but then it's like dun 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 dropped on you later. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And
Or it's
I,
like suggested, like later I would wonder whether she meant to betray me,
yeah.
That is
and then it
some
was never addressed.
R.L. Stein bullshit.
Did you guys notice the rest of the book never has a conversation with Bast? We never address whether she was a loyalist or not. We never find out whether she had meant to mislead her,
Mm.
ever. It was just
Mm.
thrown in there for dramatic effect to suggest things were not as they seemed at this time.
Bum bum bum. Um, no, I mean I don't know.
It
It
bothered
wasn't my
me,
favorite
okay?
book. I I'm sorry. Um, I do want to say, since we've sort of made fun of aspects of both sections of the story,
Mm-hmm.
that I did enjoy the plot when it came down to it. I mentioned this, but like
Yeah.
I had problems with both of them, definitely, but it didn't necessarily detract from my enjoyment of the process overall.
Not really very much for me either.
I mean, because especially one of my favorite things about this series in general is just that like the middle book in a series is generally like the time where the two love interests either have to find their way back to each other or like over, you know what I mean? Like there's always something that's wrong with their romance that
Mm-hmm.
forces the central conflict of the middle book because there really is no plot except for to set up the final book.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And like that is the YA trope, and I just really like that this book took time to discuss Akiva and Karu as separate people
Mm-hmm.
who like do have this bond that they share, but do for most of this book spend it separate and don't spend it like, well, I mean Akiva is kind of moony, but like don't spend it
More
searching
like.
for each other and like, you know, deciding that their love is better than everything. Like there really
Mm-hmm.
is a commitment from both of them to ending the war and ending the suffering and like doing something to that effect.
Being
Which
productive human beings, or sorry,
yes,
chimera
Mm-hmm.
and angel.
yes,
So
because like I feel
while.
like
Yeah. Oh,
no,
go
I
on.
was just gonna say that most YA books like pretend to want to save the world, but really they just want to bone. And like these guys actually want to save the world. So that was just nice to have a book that seriously focused on that.
Mhm.
I should say that now that I'm thinking about it, in that beginning bit that I had issues with, um, when Akiva and his siblings first get back together, I not sure I completely like felt like their reunion was genuine in a way. Like I wanted more from that interaction, and maybe because I listened to it so quickly, it just seemed like they were fine. Like they punched him a bit and then we're fine. I don't know.
I
Do you get what I'm
mean,
saying though?
I don't
yeah, for
remember
me,
that scene as you're describing, so I can't chime in.
I definitely had that feeling when I read that for sure. But it's also coupled with a sense that like these three siblings have had everything else taken away from them. They can't trust anyone else, anything else, and all they have is each other. And they are willing to like to be angry and then get over it in order to keep that bond because like that is the one thing that they have that they believe in. So like it's
I
like it's
guess I guess like it makes sense. I just wanted like them to talk a little bit more.
And like approach their emotions in reasonable adult ways, Michaela? Do you realize what you're asking?
No, that's not
These three characters are the most emotionally stunted individuals, more so than Karoo.
true.
yeah, I was
True.
gonna say because I mean like part of being misbegotten is that you're not supposed to think of yourself as a human being. So I just feel like if that scene had been any more emotional, I would have just been like, none of you are capable of this in any form or function.
Right, but like I wanted it. I
Yeah,
I mean that's
needed
fair. I'm
I
not
needed
gonna.
the sibling love because I don't know, I just like I wanted it and it didn't exist and I was like, "No, I don't know if I fully accept this." But okay, we're continuing. Okay. I don't know.
I mean I wanted it too, but it also made sense. So I don't know where the right thing there falls. You know.
they'll
Right.
just let it fester inside of themselves.
That's not healthy.
Nope. Look, Michaela, you know?
But then again, being angsty motherfuckers like
Mhm.
Thiago doesn't help either, so.
You know which one of them felt things and tried to confront emotions? Hazael. And you know what happened to him? He died because he was happy. As we return to my earlier point, but this time with spoilers, happiness cannot exist in this series because the world is sad, Michaela. The moons were crying. Crying.
I see.
Wait, okay. Although in terms of characters that bother me and like don't bother me at the same time on that subject, let's talk about Ziri.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because like the insertion of the last of her kind who had a crush on her and was willing to do anything for her in like so many convenient spaces. I was just like, because he's another one of those characters who, like, the second he's introduced, like, I feel like I missed this novella where, like, I learned way more about him
Yeah.
than, like, I got.
But
And
the
Yeah.
so, like, I really
flashing
wanted
light
to
over
like
his
him.
head indicates you like this is the thing.
I really wanted to like him, but I was like, so convenient.
You want to know why I was okay with him? Well, why I became okay with him? Because
Sure.
for a while there we had okay, so it isn't a love triangle and it isn't a love square despite Karoo having Angel Boy, Thiago, and Siri as like the individuals. So we have kind of like this chicken foot um, right here. Them all convening on one point. But by the
Uh,
end of the book,
wow. Okay.
visuals. Thiago's dead. Ziri is now Thiago. back to a convenient triangle.
And I mean, I will say that I'm trying not, even though I've mentioned it about 17 times, I'm really trying to like keep my opinion stuck to just this book and not bring what happens in the final book into what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Does
is really hard.
Iago marry Akiva? Back from the dead? What is happening, Gretchen?
Iago was actually Karoo. It was the ultimate switcheroo.
Just wait for Karoo to start going, Akiva, Akiva.
Okay, continue. What were you actually gonna say?
Was it not that?
I really liked his transition from like Ziri in love with Madrigal / Karoo into like Ziri the nice guy trying to be Thiago and just totally like being like, I'm so confused. So like I really liked him in that book. In this book, he felt very convenient.
I kind of had some existential horror from that idea of him like puppeting around the creepy Thiago body.
It is a really good part of the final book. I will say that.
And
puppeting around them.
So
they put a pair of sunglasses on his face, tie a bunch of strings. He's fine. What are you talking about?
Susanna is the puppet master.
Right?
Susanna leads a rebellion, Weekend at Bernie's style, for an entire book. I'm kind of disappointed she conveniently resurrected the dead body, and yet couldn't, resurrect the two sphinxes, the assassins, or Azerbaijan, Axer, Siak, into their bodies, despite 5 minutes having passed.
Yeah.
Don't ask questions. It's better that way.
Yeah.
Why make it convenient for me?
Why answer questions? What? I don't think I have anything else to say.
I wanted to talk briefly about the world and the world building. And we've kind of touched on this, but like whether you got enough of what you needed. This is
Karoo get money these days? That's my question. I don't feel like obscure town in the desert takes visa.
Really? Huh?
Because, there's that line about her being super rich from Susanna, but I'm like, but there isn't an ATM out there. She just shows up and brings these things back. It never discusses payment.
That's too small of a detail to...
Logistics bother me, okay? I need times, I need receipts.
Okay, let me clarify then, so we don't end up discussing receipts for 15 minutes.
How many days do they eat? How many pounds?
Like the random insertion of the stellions, like that kind of a thing.
Oh, okay, those are the magic angels, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that was weird. Showed up.
Because I don't know how a thing in this book can be that I feel like I have more information than I need, and yet none of the information that I need. I don't know.
You have the wrong information.
Yeah,
it's elves out in the mystical Orient, and I don't know where they came from because they were never talked about before now.
I don't. When there are books that have multiple factions that generally are upset with each other, I do assume that there are pockets within each faction that are generally different than the faction itself. But I am not sure they keeping them not secret, but not spoken about or not a thing was an afterthought, or if it was purposely because nobody knew about them until that point that we were following.
I guess for me it was just these guys weren't mentioned in the beginning because they weren't necessary, because they're not there. Like they're not they didn't fight in the war to begin with. They didn't take sides, like they just kind of stayed out there. But
Mhm.
then like Joram was like, I'm gonna declare war on these people that I think someone literally says like he doesn't even know who their king is, and someone goes, no, they have a queen.
They're literally on the other side of the world, swathed in mist. No one's ever been there,
Dude.
and suddenly they're the most important thing.
Yeah, so I just kind of like this like that whole like Joram deciding that he needed to go to war again against these crazy people. Like, is there no one else closer? Like you literally like you have this
Polar
whole
bears.
war. I'm like,
Polar bears.
it's yeah, it's like
They
the
got them beat.
mystical elves just kind of whoppa need new conflict. Here it is.
Well, I don't think I accurately described myself. There's more than the two, right? Like we have to accept that in like a real world
We
situation,
can assume, but
there's more
no
than
one's
one.
ever talked about.
No,
Right.
Ever.
But it isn't
no, I'm
Well, it's
agreeing
like,
with you though,
yeah.
Michaela.
like
Like,
it is more realistic to have this other country that he decides to attack. I just think that it would have been better if he like had a reasoning for it or
yeah,
if
yeah,
he had
no,
mentioned it earlier because like it does have the he's attacking no somebody for no reason sort of feel, but the other thing is we aside from us being like hit over
Mhm.
the head with it, we have no reason to care for them and like want them to not
Mhm.
get wiped out in a war.
besides the fact that Akiva's mother was one. Like
Yeah.
that is our only connection. But also, I mean, because what you were saying about it being more realistic for this world to have more than one kind definitely is what hit me. Because
Yeah.
like I mean, the fact that the Chimera and the Angels were trying to like occupy this world together, like
Mhm.
that made sense on like a global scale. But then you add like these other angels who are apparently close enough to invade, but far enough away that they know nothing about them. And I
That's
was just like, is there no, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
yes.
I
That's
feel
what
like
was
there
rubbing
was
me the wrong way.
Mm.
this believable like two species, but then
Mhm.
surprise, there's a faction of the second species that lives here too, but lives on the other side of the mist wall.
And it's because of that where you would assume there are other people, but the fact that it's the only other people that are talked about and they're going to be invaded are on the other side of the world suggests there is no one else.
Yes.
That you just have these two land masses, and that's it.
I have a thing, sort of, maybe.
Okay.
So, um, I reread a Kresley Cole book because I don't often reread things, and I felt like maybe I should try that because Gretchen does it all the time. Um, in Kresley Cole's novels, which are all paranormal romance novels, if you did not know, there are two, possibly three factions of vampires that have different roots. And there are other species that have declared war on vampires in general. Um, and there are some that aren't like tied into the greater plot. They are somewhat secluded and hidden away, but are known and have been mentioned throughout the entire series up to a point where they become plot oriented. So if I mean, I guess it was sort of hinted at in the fact that Akiva can do magic. And he constantly is like, I'm doing secret magic, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But like it needed more of a basis in the world even if it wasn't important because like the discussion of like every time somebody's like I declared war on these vampires and somebody was like, "Yeah, but what about those vampires?" I don't remember what they're called at the moment, but the forebearers and they haven't done anything wrong and somebody else is like if I meet one and they've got fangs I'm going to kill them because I'm paranormal romance and I'm going to fight them, but they've been mentioned even if they're not important and you can sort of understand the greater world that makes more sense.
Yeah. I guess it was just a combination of like what Taylor and I are talking about, and then just
Mm-hmm.
Joram being like, I'm forward. So I'm literally just going to declare to you people to whom I have never spoken or particularly cared about interacting with except for that one chick I slept with, and I'm going to declare war. Although I really, really did appreciate the basket of fruit.
That was a nice touch.
That was the moment when I was like,
They seem
I
like
think
nice
I like you. And then the third book happened. But anyways.
So I guess what we can address this when it comes down to criticism is when you are preparing to write a trilogy, which is a very compact, clear arced piece, and you have the plan to introduce a major conflict in the second book that's then presumably central in the third book. You, in preparing to write this, should be able to seed it adequately without being heavy-handed in the first one, by just introducing them and their place in this world a little more clearly so that it doesn't feel pulled out of a magician's hat, maybe?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
it's time to
Yeah.
show up?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Also read Kresley Cole's books because they're good.
I am angry about how much I like her Arcana Chronicles. Like, legitimately angry.
I have not read those, but
They're her YA series, but
I know.
Of course they are.
I know. I love her very much. She's one of the few paranormal romance authors that I continue to collect her books and read them past high school. A lot of those series I gave up on. So she's got something. I don't have anything else to say. It was a good book.
Yeah, we enjoyed it.
I mean, her writing is still really pretty.
Yes.
I do like her writing.
Susanna, best girl.
Yeah.
Susanna best.
Liraz, it is Liraz, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Liraz following up just because clearly a lot more time is being put into her right now.
And
So
she's like at
we're
least not a
expected to
boring
like her.
angel.
Well, she was very much a boring angel. But she's trying to be less of a boring angel by having feelings again, and she'll get the hang of it, maybe. 'Cause right now she's struggling.
I just like part of my questions for you guys have been leading to a thing because I think that someday we should read Days of Gods and Monsters because I, having liked Daughter of Smoke and Bone, having liked Days of Blood and Starlight a little bit more, and then reading this book, just put it down and went, what?
Well, we were told that Magician's Book 3 pays for all, so we might finally finish a series we hate with positive feelings, and end a series we liked with very negative feelings, so I'm all for it.
I think we should do it. We should do like a specialty like Bibliomancy's finishes shit.
Bibliomancy finishes trilogies.
Cause like I really want to see, cause like I have admitted this about my reading. I just did it earlier. Is that like when I read books, I read them very quickly, and I don't always read them very thoroughly. Especially when I feel like they are dragging, and I start skimming. And I'm not going to apologize for that because I don't read to be bored, man. But so like I would love to see you guys who are more thorough readers than I am try and tackle what the fuck happens in that book.
Okay.
Well, how can I say no?
Oh goodness. I'm not looking forward to it. No.
It's like it's good, but I'm confused.
I mean, that's going to be the same horrific fascination I go into the Magician Lands, I want to say, with.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, except for I don't care if I don't read that for another 7 years.
I just want to see what it is. I hated the first two, and yet I need to know.
Yeah, I don't think I need to know, but
Taylor and I can do
like,
the episode, and you can just like hit yourself in the head with a book in the background.
I can like tear out page after page, light it on fire. Next page.
Yeah.
That's a bit harsh.
After the ending of
For
the
any
second
book.
Magician's book, no. No, that is entirely appropriate.
Yep.
Wow.
I think the ending of the I don't want to get into this, but I think the ending of the second one was worse because we all had started to like it. Like we were like,
Oh, it's
okay,
true.
Yeah.
okay, and then immediately we're just like this.
Anyways, dear viewer, if you are still with us and want to be angry, our 2 episodes on the magicians are really good
Wild.
and really angry.
Yeah.
Passionate.
Hashtag salty.
Yeah.
Anger as well. Guys, I'm so excited we're going to be reading Walter Mowers for next session. I'm so excited. This is finally my excuse after years to reread this book, and
Taylor is made of excite.
I'm also terrified about just Gretchen complaining about it, because she's going to no matter what. She
That
will
is-
like the book and just harass me endlessly about hating it.
It's quite possible.
I will say that. I mean, Gretchen will probably like it more than I will because I definitely, especially after reading Days of Blood and Starlight, am very much still in the I'm so tired of fantasy mode that I've been in since like February.
Mm-hmm.
And these books are fantasy based.
They are, but they're just a slightly different sort of fantasy than.
I think we should also do like a theme month where you and I we're not allowed to pick fantasy books so that Michaela can have a slight break.
See, what I want to do is we all have to choose books we think, like, say, I need to choose a book I think Gretchen would actually like. Or maybe something so Gretchen has to choose. Michaela, I can't swap with because we'd just be like, yeah, that'd be easy. Never mind, this might be a tedious solution without another person in there.
No, it's a set of books where you have to please me.
All of us?
So here was how I was gonna say Taylor picks for Gretchen picks for me, and I pick for Taylor, but I have to pick something that I wouldn't like, but I think Taylor would, because I
Ooh.
can do that.
Well, I don't mean to say, like, we should get things the other person would, that we know we will dislike.
Well, no, like
maybe
the
we should
point
invite,
is,
like, Casey in, so we still have that wild card of tastes.
but Casey likes.
Casey swings.
She really does.
Yeah. I also was thinking that maybe we should do a middle grade themed thing at some point. Like all of us pick a middle grade story. That sounds good.
All right.
Because we haven't done that before, and we have mentioned, Taylor and I have mentioned that we often are more interested in middle grade blurbs than young adult blurbs.
Yeah, it's true. I also want to choose one that I think like my grandmother would like or something like that. Because we read 2 a.m. at the Cat's Pajamas, which my grandmother loved, and we had like a really exciting conversation about that.
Yay! She liked my pick!
Yeah, and she had already read it, so something like that. I'm like, wow, what if we chose books that like normal people read?
Normal people read.
It's
Rude.
Because whenever I'm talking with like relatives or random people, like nothing I read has actually been read except for something like, the Virgin Suicides, like the mainstream literary fiction, like the
You're
common
welcome for
man's
me
books.
constantly picking those. You're welcome.
Not literary fiction, just like the common man's literary fiction.
No,
like,
that's
the
what I'm
things that
saying.
show up on the popular reads.
I'm the one that's picked all of those.
YA is now like a huge thing.
No, Gretchen, no one I talk to actually reads YA though.
Well, I don't.
That's not my point. I'm saying we should choose something that normal people read, not us. Gretchen, I'm entirely suggesting we choose things that we don't normally read. Not, I'm going to change the people I talk to so they read what I'm reading, because that's not the point of this challenge.
Dude, you already talked to us. You don't need anyone else.
No.
My
Anyways, I
family
think that
thinks I'm weird.
we should take this offline, folks.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So, the 13 and a half lives of Captain Blue Bear
By Walter
for
Mowers.
2 weeks from now?
I'm gonna
Question
go
mark,
read some of it
folks.
tonight.
Yeah, because I have to get
Yeah.
this book from a very obscure corner of my library system.
Okay. I have a copy, so I'm okay.
Lives.
2 weeks is fine. Yeah, that'll happen, and then probably after that will be the last nostalgia junkie thing. So I'm
Yes.
saying no book club next week, but 2 weeks from now and 3 weeks from now there will be. So you can expect us then, and we'll tell you all of our plans for future book clubs at that point.
Yes.
We reach it. So
We'll make a schedule.
yeah, look out for that.
Choose books.
Bye, guys.
Bye!
Mm.
안녕.